Welcome to the Break Time University podcast. This is Patrick McMullen, and this is episode 67. And it is a riveting story by Rob Hunter on his trip to the U.S. border and how communication, both listening and talking, made the thumbprint on his career.
Some of the most famous people on the planet, some of the richest people on the planet, some of the people you probably admire the most are excellent communicators. They're leaders, but it all starts with communication. And we're going to teach you a couple of tidbits that you can use no matter what your position is, because at the very least, you're trying to lead yourself in a new direction. You're trying to lead yourself to more money, a bigger promotion, maybe a higher up position than you're at right now. And one of the ways to do that is to communicate your ideas effectively. My name is Rob Hunter. For 23 years, I was a radio talk show host. Now I'm here with you on the Break Time U podcast, designed to get you quick nuggets of information that you can apply to your job, your life right away. You learn things here in short, bite-sized segments while you're snacking on a Hot Pocket. And I love me some Hot Pockets. Just a regular straight up old marinara and cheese. Ooh! Nothing better than that. My second favorite thing in the break room, blueberry Pop-Tarts. Absolutely love me some blueberry Pop-Tarts. I want to take you back to 2007. 2007, I'd just gotten a new job, January. I moved from Farmington, New Mexico to Phoenix, Arizona, after I got a job at a radio station. And this job was a bit of a step back for me because I was on the air in my previous career. This was a behind-the-scenes role. And in 2007, in Phoenix, Arizona, one of the major issues was what's now called migration. Arizona shares a border with Mexico, and at night, dozens of people would cross across the border every single night to try to get into America and do it outside the law. And because this was a big story, I knew I had a big, bold idea that I wanted to present. I was working with a host. His name was Daryl. Daryl was a phenomenal storyteller and a phenomenal mentor. He was a leader. I, at the time, 29 years old, didn't feel like a leader. I don't even know how I would describe it. I felt like I was going backwards at the time. I didn't really feel fully confident to be able to present these ideas. But this is where my talk show formula came to be. My talk show formula is a presentation manner of speaking. You have an opening segment, your opening statement, you've got your structure, and you've got some enhancers, things like storytelling that bring your presentation to life. So where leadership and communication vibe together is in three things. First and foremost, vision and direction. And it doesn't matter what position you're in, where you're at, your vision and direction are important because that's where you want to go. So let's say that you just started a gig. You're sitting there maybe in your break room and you're like, where can I go from here? That's where your vision and direction start. And it's important to communicate that vision and direction so that others know where you want to go. Leadership and communication also builds trust so that you can move up the ranks. Or if you're the manager, you're the boss, you're the CEO, you have to build trust with your employees so they do the things you need them to do, which is, of course, based on your vision. If you're a CEO without a vision, everybody's rowing in their own direction and not rowing in the same direction. And that's the direction you want them to go. That's why leadership and communication at every single level is so important. And then the third reason why leadership and communication go hand in hand is that's where improvement comes from. Feedback. You have to communicate effective feedback on how to get better. So let's go back to 2007. So as migration is a major issue in Phoenix, Arizona, I come up with this idea that we should go to the border as a broadcast team and we should broadcast remotely from the border. That was my big vision and that was my big direction. And I present this to Daryl and he loves the idea. See, this is why you can lead when you're in a backseat position, when you're not the boss, when you're a producer like I was, just organizing the show and booking the guests and helping with research and giving the host everything he needs. And because he loved that idea, this was early on in our working relationship, we built trust because he knew that I was coming to him with big, bold ideas, things that would separate our radio show from every other radio show in Phoenix. Nobody's going down to the border. Nobody was taking broadcast equipment, willing to put it all on the line, perhaps getting in trouble. And then as we started to develop this idea, we all welcomed feedback from each other. And it became better and better and better and better. So what ended up happening in 2007, once we put everything together, I want to say it was March when I had this idea. So by May, we were ready to go down. And from Phoenix, the border with Mexico is about a 3-hour drive. So we had to figure out what we needed to bring with us, who we needed to bring with us. One of the most important, critical pieces, outside of Daryl and myself, was our engineer. Our engineer, Gary, he was the guy that was going to make sure that we could broadcast wherever we went. Thankfully, this radio station had invested in some equipment that allowed us to do so. It also had purchased, get this, a big old RV, which was great because we could sleep in it. It had beds, it had tables that turned into beds, it had all the space that we needed so that we could take Daryl, me, Gary, our engineer. But we also needed a couple of other elements too. We needed a little bit of security. So Daryl's son, Adam, fresh out of the Marine Corps, he joined us. He was our security guy. He was our marinely trained eyes and ears. But there was also another missing element. And this came through the communication and the improvement in the feedback because it was effective. You can't just go into Mexico if you don't speak Spanish, especially if you're looking for stories and you're looking to try to figure out why people migrate from Mexico or Central America or wherever and sneak into the United States. So we hired a translator. And it's a crazy story too, because we just put it out on the radio. Said, we need going on this trip. We need a translator. Anybody that speaks Spanish, give us a call. So we get a few calls. And this guy, Alonzo, young guy, probably 25, 26 at the time, says he's willing to go. He was born in Mexico, if I remember correctly. Legally, no. His mom was born in Mexico. He was born in the United States. That was the story. But he grew up speaking Spanish, very fluent in English. So he was the perfect person for us to go on this adventure with. So based on that vision and direction, let's go to the border and see what's happening. We go down there. We built trust because we communicated very effectively, very openly about this idea. And you have to put your ego aside sometimes when the feedback comes in that maybe your idea is not the best idea. Or maybe every idea that you have is not brilliant. And maybe that other people have brilliant ideas too. So because this was such an exciting project, because it was something so unique in the radio business that none of us had ever done before, that not many other broadcasters had ever done before, it allowed for that feedback to come in because there was a passion. There was a direction. There was that vision. There was that trust we're going to have in each other when you got 5 dudes hanging out in the desert looking for trouble. And we found some trouble. Thankfully, not a lot. But what we ended up doing is crossing into Mexico. We spent a night in Mexico. We talked to what is now known as coyotes, people that smuggle people across the border. At this time, they were teenage lookouts looking for opportunities for people to sneak into the country. But we're across the border in Mexico talking to them on their land. Then we mosey back into America. We link up with the United States Border Patrol, and they show us what's happening on the law enforcement side of things, how they operate, showed us their facility where they have cameras and keep track of certain hot spots along the border. We met up with the National Guard, who was playing an assist role with the Border Patrol at the time. Then we did something a little crazy. There's a town called Sasabe in Arizona. On the other side of the border is El Sasabe in Mexico. This was the boldest move that we did. We were driving around, and we had heard that this was the real hot spot. So we drive down, the 5 of us. We park the RV. We get in the Jeep that we brought with us. This was Gary, the engineer's Jeep. Because you don't want to bring the whole RV into Mexico. It's a whole thing at the border checkpoint. But we get in the Jeep. We go to the border checkpoint. Well, let us in, no problem. Okay, have fun. As soon as we get into the Mexico side, maybe quarter of a mile, the paved road becomes a dirt road. And the dirt road moseys its way through town, and maybe Another quarter mile in, maybe a half a mile in, there's a warehouse. And there is a bunch of fellas with a bunch of water hanging out, obviously waiting for nightfall to sneak into the country. That was no problem, no trouble, because they're just trying to get into the country. And then we see this hill off to the left. And we said, why don't we go up to the hill, get a good vantage point of the U.S. border? So we drive on up the hill, the Jeep, we get out, we're all looking around. We've got some binoculars, we're scanning the border, we're trying to see where those guys in the warehouse were going to sneak into the country. And then we see the Humvees rolling our way. Military Humvees, camouflaged. Guns. We're like, uh-oh, maybe we should get down from the hill. So we get down from the hill, and by the time we get down from the hill, there are those Humvees at the bottom of the hill. Out comes members of the Mexican military. And we're like, uh-oh, what do we do? So I'm in the Jeep. I'm in the back seat. Daryl and Alonzo, the translator, get out and go talk to them. So Adam is in the Jeep with us, with Gary and me. And he says, Adam, the Marine, if for any reason they start shooting, get behind the Jeep. And this is a wild moment. For some reason in that moment, I was not fearful at all. I was totally zoned in and focused on the story. I wasn't sure if we were going to get arrested. I wasn't sure if we were going to get kicked out. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Well, it turns out, because we had our translator, we planned ahead, we went through the process of communicating through what we would need, sometimes uncomfortably. We arrived at the need to have the translator. We found Alonzo, and Alonzo got us out of that sticky situation with a warning from the Mexican military. It said, hey, y'all don't want to hang around here too long, so get back to the United States. Go that way, kids. So we did. And as we start driving towards the border, a mile later, we get stopped by a cop, a federale in Mexico. And we're like, oh, here we go again. What's going to happen? Are we going to get arrested? No. The cop also told us to get the hell out of here. And as we start driving away from the cop, a white sedan pulls up behind us and rides our bumper all the way up to the United States border. Pretty freaky story. But it doesn't end there. Because the very next day, we linked up with a group that sort of patrolled the desert. I guess that's the best way to say it. So we're out patrolling the desert with them, and these are the tracks that people walk to come into the United States. At least they did back in 2007. And we're out there, and it's May in southern Arizona. It's hot. It's over 100 degrees. And we're walking and walking, and we're sweating, and we're sweating, and we're like, what are we doing out here? We're not seeing anything. And then we come into this path, and we hear like wrestling over here in a tree. And there's a guy there by himself, left behind. He had come in with a group, but he couldn't keep up. So that group kept going, left him behind to die. Had we not found him that day, who knows what may have happened. Instinctively, when we met this man, his name was Armando, I reached at a bottle of water in the side of my backpack. So I instinctively reached for it because I could tell he was out here for a while. He drank that 16-ounce bottle of water in half a second. Someone else in our group gave him another one. He drank that in half of a second. And then he told us his story. He had been in the United States for 22 years, lived in Tennessee, has 2 kids born in America. I can't remember if his wife is American or not. He had to go home for a relative's funeral. So he went into Mexico, and the only way he could get back in, because he didn't have papers, was to sneak in. And he was not a gym rat, let's put it that way, trying to walk through Arizona to get back to Nashville because he's going to pick up a car or a flight in Phoenix and, head on over to Nashville, whatever his story was from there. But this all from an idea that started from communication, that started with a vision, that became a direction, and that vision and direction and that big, bold idea helped build trust with my new working relationships. Because by the time we had gone down to Mexico, January, February, March, April, I'm 4 months on the job with a brand new team, brand new host, brand new city. And we get to do something so incredibly rewarding for ourselves and for the people that listen to our show, because we were able to bring them Armando's perspective. Because oftentimes with stories when it comes to something like migration. The topics of conversation are often black and white. But that communication and that story that we got from Armando and getting surrounded by the Mexican military and kicked out of Mexico and talking to the coyotes who are helping sneak people across into the United States not only helped us build trust together as a team, but helped our team build trust with Phoenix and the people that listen to us. And the way that we improved these ideas was just by working together and talking them out, adding layer and layer, taking things away, adding things in, and planning. But see, that's where you are a leader, no matter your position. CEO all the way down to the first employee in the building in the morning. How you communicate is what sets you apart. How you communicate is how you get people to do what you want them to do. How you influence people, how you get buy-in for your ideas. And it starts with how you present your vision. How you present your direction based on your vision. How you inspire others so they want to jump on board. That's how you build trust. And then from there, be open to the feedback, especially from mentors. Different ideas aren't always bad ideas. They're not always great ideas, but sometimes together you can take okay ideas and turn them into great ideas. That is what propels your career forward. This story, this is how I made my big thumbprint at my brand new Phoenix radio station. I did things that no one else in that building had done. My team did things that no one else in that building had done. And we became leaders simply by not just talking, but by doing. And then once you present yourself well and you follow with the right action, oh man, that's when you get the respect. That's when everybody's on board. And that's the trick. So no matter where you're at on your career journey, on the Break Time U podcast, remember these three things. When it comes to communication, what's your vision and direction for the company, for where you want to go in your career? How do you build trust around that direction and vision? How do you execute that vision? And then, how do you improve? Who are you listening to improve? How are you getting better? What feedback are you welcoming in? Once you combine all of those things, you put all the right pieces in place to be able to control your own destiny. And isn't that what we're all after? Yes, we all are. At least that's what I'm after. My name is Rob Hunter. Thank you for being here on the Break Time U podcast. Bite-sized nuggets for you to improve. So subscribe. We got tons of great episodes coming up. We got tons of great episodes we've already recorded with some great people like David Noir. That guy's amazing. He teaches leadership skills. Alan Schaefer. That guy is just cool. He's worked with some of the biggest rock bands out there. Christy Siefkin, a television journalist. She's amazing. And our homeboy, Patrick McMullen, who founded this whole thing and brought us all together. That guy, all he does is create multi-million-dollar businesses. So you get a chance to learn from him. Pick up every episode that you can. We've also talked about health and wellness and so many other things. So again, subscribe. Again, thank you for being here. And until next time, enjoy your break. Cheers.
Thank you for joining us on the Break Time University podcast. Check out Rob by visiting him at robhunter.me and check out all of his episodes by subscribing to this channel or visiting breaktimeu.com.